There was another game today, though, that we've got to get to. Senegal took on the Netherlands. The Netherlands won that game 2-0 with 2 late goals. Tom Hamilton was at the game. We need to keep Shaka as well because we've got some questions from the Goalkeepers Union too. But Tom, tell us about the game, how it all went down.
Well, to be honest, the first half was pretty average. As we were saying earlier, teams don't really want to lose an opening match, and that's kind of how it felt. So there were some sort of half chances, but the pace was slow. There were loads of errors. It was quite a bitty sort of game. But what changed it was in the 60th minute when Van Gaal brought on Memphis Depay, and that really changed the whole shift of the game, I think, because he actually gave them more of a purpose up front. Up to that stage, Vincent Janssen, who started up front. I mean, you talk earlier about the importance of your striker being the first defensive player. I think that's all he can do, to be honest, because he didn't really offer a huge amount at all, apart from sort of being that physical presence. But I think Memphis certainly changed the pace of the game, and Van Gaal said afterwards that he thought his team were fitter, which he thought had a huge impact in the end. But it was a typical opening game, I think. I think the Netherlands will be absolutely delighted. The Senegal coach afterwards said that he felt his team should at least got a draw. I think that's probably fair overall, but in the end, it was just that bit of class. Like Cody Gakpo, I think everyone's talking about him in Europe as, the next sort of guy who might move from the Eredivisie to the Premier League. He showed today exactly why he's got that reputation. That goal, he took it brilliantly. Frankie de Jong was pretty ordinary for most of the part, but again, in those big moments, that ball in a game where, to be honest, the set pieces were pretty average, that ball was just pinpoint. And, they're off and running, which is exactly what they wanted. And I think from the looks of things, they didn't really get any injuries. Senegal got 2, to really important players as well, where with a team which is already without, their focal point in Sadio Mane, you really feel for them because these sort of injuries to Kiate and Diallo, I mean, they're gonna set them back. So on a night, I think from the Netherlands' point of view, pretty much ideal.
Tom, let me ask you something. Great to have you on the show. Just one thing, and it's the segue, the perfect segue, Tom. You did it beautifully on Sadio Mane, because there were moments in this game. I mean, as to your point, the first half was a little bit of a snooze. It wasn't until it got a little bit more frantic, and that wasn't even until the last 10 minutes. But Senegal did knock the door a couple of times. I know it may sound like such a simple question, but do you think if Sadio Mane was playing in this game, could Senegal have taken something out of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think if you look at, those moments in the first half where, and it would have been the wing where he was playing, they really showed up the lack of understanding between Dumfries and De Ligt on that side of the defence. Like Ismail Assar had so much joy down there. And I think had they had that on both flanks, Dia would have had better service up front. And I think the mere presence of Sadio Mane cannot help but lift an entire team. They won the African Cup of Nations this year. He's absolutely world class, and you can't help but think what this match would have been like had he been there. There was definitely opportunity there for Senegal today. Netherlands, I thought early on, from a defensive point of view, looked poor. They looked like that back three he went for of Ake, Van Dijk and De Ligt didn't really have much of an understanding. They were struggling playing out from the back at times. Frankie de Jong got caught. Daley Blind also on the left-hand side was turned a few times. There was opportunity there, and I think Sadio Mane on 2 fronts. Firstly, as the leader, sort of the importance he has within that team. But secondly, because he's world class, he would have been in the right positions to take full advantage of those chances which the Netherlands offered up, but also that Senegal forced.
Shaka, before we let you go, we've got to ask you about Mendy in this game.
Yeah, it was a tough one for Edouard Mendy, and it kind of highlights the need in these tournaments, players coming in, as much as we talked about teams coming in good form, players coming in good form. We are talking about Senegal, the reigning Africa Cup of Nations champions. When they won that tournament, I thought Edouard Mendy had a genuine claim of being the best goalkeeper in world football at the time. Since then, he's lost his place at Chelsea. He's had injuries. He's had a little bit of a loss of form, in all honesty, recently in the league, and it kind of showed. For the Gakpo goal, I thought he came. I thought it was a delightful ball in. Let's not take anything away from the ball into Gakpo, but again, you as a keeper, a striker beats you to it. that raises question marks. And then for the second and the decisive, spilling a ball back into the middle of your box like that is page one in the goalkeeper's manual, especially at this level of the game. So for a goalkeeper who, as I say, 18 months, 24 months ago, had a genuine claim as being one of the best in world football, one that I think Senegal could rely on quite heavily and would have to rely on quite heavily. It wasn't a good day at the office.
Fair to say. Tom, we're going to say goodbye to Shaka now, but we do want to keep picking you up on this game and a few other things that you've seen in Qatar. Shaka, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, everybody. Talk to you all soon.
Tom, Netherlands and Senegal. Obviously, this game started it off in their group. Many have got both of them to get through. How do you see it going after today's game in Group A?
It's a great question. I think just to actually follow up on what Shaka was saying about the goalkeepers, it's worth mentioning the Netherlands goalkeeper who was making his international debut, right? That's straight out of the Louis van Gaal playbook, producing something like that, a little bit unpredictable. And of course, he was very, should we say, forthright about the decision afterwards because he was proven right. But I still think that Senegal-Ecuador game is going to be fascinating because though they were playing against, let's face it, pretty limited opposition last night, they're still the hosts, Qatar, okay? It's a big occasion. You could easily get sort of stage fright from it. But I think that Senegal have to regroup. I think they're probably a better team than Ecuador, but Ecuador have this win. They're off and running. And, that sort of momentum is key. The next match will be fascinating. Netherlands against Ecuador. You fully expect Senegal to go and, probably put a few goals on Qatar. But equally, those two injuries, I think, today to Kiate and Diallo are going to be big for them. I'd still back Senegal to get through. I think they will. I think they'll regroup. They know what it takes to win at the highest level. And I think that's going to see them through. But they really need to now start, picking up that form and getting some momentum.
Yeah, Kay, it's a really tough group to figure out. And to Tom's point, it's also difficult to decipher just how good Ecuador can be in this tournament. Obviously, I follow the South American teams very closely, and I can tell you Ecuador they're like the Memphis Grizzlies of football. They don't care who you are, and they just go at you. But they can also be very vulnerable. And if you play a better team, with all due respect to Qatar, somebody like Senegal, even without Sadio Mane, it could be interesting. I'm with Tom. I still see Senegal getting out of this. And let's not forget, Kay, Louis van Gaal, he gets better game by game in a tournament. So, he'd have learned a lot of things from this opener.
Yeah, he had his thunder stolen a little bit by another Louis V, thanks to Ronaldo and Messi in a big advertising campaign before this
Very
one.
good, Kay.
We're going to get some predictions from you guys for tomorrow. But first, as you're here, Tom, tell us what the experience has been like in Qatar. You've been to one of the fan festivals. Is it what you expected?
Yeah, that was chaos, to be honest. But so far, I think, as we said before, the good news is that my wedding diet is progressing really well because of the sort of transport situation. So my steps have gone through the roof.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.